Welcome back to the Daily Drum on WHUR and Sirius XM Channel 141. This is the Insight segment. I'm Harold Fisher. The nation continues to mourn today as more details are revealed from the tragic mid-air collision last night near Reagan National Airport. An American Airlines passenger plane and a military helicopter plunged into the icy Potomac River, killing all aboard both aircraft. We will, of course, continue to keep you up to date on the very latest recovery efforts as DMV crews undertake the massive task of pulling all of the 67 victims from the water. Now, tonight, we're talking briefly with Prince George's County Council Chair Jolene Ivey about the county's role in this effort, as well as a host of other news coming out of Prince George's County this week. Council Chair Ivey, thank you so much for spending some time with us. I appreciate your time.
No, of course. Thanks so much. I appreciate yours.
Let's first talk about Prince George's County EMS crews. We know that they are, even at this hour, and have been since last night, on the water, helping with the recovery. There was a posting on the social media site warning county residents, as well as anyone else, that if you happen to see debris within the waters of the Prince George's County jurisdiction, not to touch it, but to make sure that you call the appropriate authorities, because certainly that will help with the investigation. From your perspective, what do you know more about the participation of Prince George's County emergency service workers?
No, absolutely. Our police departments, the Marine Special Operations Unit, the dive unit, the aviation section, all of them from Prince George's County are fully engaged in helping. Fire and EMS is there. Everybody's there. And, I'm proud of Prince George's County. I'm proud of our first responders. But what I'm really proud of is our whole region has pulled together and everybody's pitching in. Everyone is sending all the help that they can. And it's one of those times that there's no division when it comes to a tragedy like this. Everybody wants to help. Nobody's complaining about being called on. Well, there's one person complaining, but we have to kind of put him out of our consciousness, because the man who currently inhabits the White House is not acting presidential at all. And he's just making people angry. It has to be about him. It can't be about the people who've lost their lives and the tragedy that has hit this country and certainly our region. So I think I myself would like to keep the focus there and not on him, because his comments are not worth acknowledging, pretty much.
But I would say that those comments are important in the greater context of where we are. And I did want to drill down just a little bit, particularly his comments blaming without evidence that this horrific incident is the result of DEI policies from the Obama as well as Biden administration. When you heard those things today, what went through your mind?
It just made me think that he always has to make everything about him. He can't stand it if there's any attention given anywhere else. And he is the one who's having mental health challenges, not any of the workers who have been working there at the airport. So it's, I hate to give his thoughts more air because they're so ignorant. And I hate to give more space to his ignorance. It's hard not to, but this is what he wants. He incites us on the daily. So instead of at a time when we're all mourning the loss of 67 human beings, fellow human beings, and of course the impacts on their families, and also on the first responders who are in the water trying to pull bodies out. It's really hard for them. It's not a job that I would be up to doing. So we have to be grateful for the people who are willing to. And I would hope that we can try to just filter out his noise. And we're going to need a big filter for the next 4 years. That's what it looks like to me.
Well, and to that point also, when, as we know, the other issues that have come up as it relates to his executive orders and cutting DEI policies, jobs for those federal government workers who were running DEI offices. I don't have to tell you that there is a huge number of federal government workers in Prince George's County, many of them people of color. And this DEI cutting by the president, one could argue that this really kind of goes to the heart of the population of Prince George's County. Am I overstepping it by?
No, I mean, really, the federal government is our industry here in Prince George's County. That's what employs most of the workers. Tens of thousands of residents in Prince George's County work for the federal government or work for a contractor that serves the federal government. So it seems to be he's trying to weaken our country. It doesn't make sense to me, but we all know that diversity is our strength. And so the more that we can do to get all voices at the table, the stronger our country is. That's just how it works. I've learned that over the years in many different ways. And he is just trying to weaken our country so he can make more money. That's the only thing that I can see. He's trying to make more money for himself and for his already very wealthy friends. And he's counting on the people of America to become enraged with him instead of at him. And that's the game he's playing. So I am also enraged, but I'm trying very hard to focus on what we can do. Now, a few days ago, my husband, Glenn Ivey, who's a congressman from District 4 here in Prince George's County or in Maryland, we hosted a town hall via Zoom for our immigrant community and for all the different organizations that serve them. So we put on a Know Your Rights forum. There were somewhere between 350 and 400 people on the forum. And we got questions in the chat. We had really great presenters to talk about, services that are available and how to protect yourself, how to protect your family. And it was instructive, but the thing that I notice the most is how scared people are. And it's so unnecessary. People are afraid to send their children to school. That's terrible. People are afraid to go to work. People are afraid, and it's not going to be good for our community. And he says he's just starting with, the really violent offenders. No, he's not. We had ICE coming after a kid who'd been driving without a license. Okay, he shouldn't have done that, but it's not deportable. And they were coming for him. And, we made sure that our police and our corrections officers here in Prince George's County followed our county laws and got him released. But it's a horrible, horrible situation we're all in. And we all need to do all we can to uplift each other, support each other, and make sure resources are available to get through what I hope will be a very quick 4 years. But so far, it's been a very long, less than 2 weeks.
Earlier this week, Maryland Attorney General Anthony Brown released some guidelines for local law enforcement. I'm sure you're aware of that as it relates to the enforcement of President Trump's immigration policies. Do you have confidence that those kinds of things will be followed statewide? I'm sure you'll probably say that you have confidence in the Prince George's County Police Department, but it seems like the AG was trying to get ahead of these policies. Your thoughts about that?
No, I think that that's really a smart thing to do. Anthony Brown is from Prince George's County, and I know he has the best interests of our state before him. And there are jurisdictions, though, that we need to remind how we do things in Maryland because it isn't all a blue state. It's a purple state, really, at this point. And acknowledging that and just making sure that everybody realizes how we do things here, I think was helpful. I can't say that the laws are going to be followed the way they should be in every jurisdiction, but in Prince George's County, we keep you safe here, and we want people to know that.
There are a lot of things I do want to talk to you about as we go along this line of issues, but before the break, and I've got a couple of minutes before the break, I did want to ask you about your candidacy for Prince George's County executive. As you know, with Angela Also Brooks ascending to the U.S. Senate, and everyone's running for everything in Prince George's County. It seems like county executive, county council. How do you address any questions about moving from at large to county chair to wanting to run for the county executive seat?
I can just tell you that having the wrong leadership is very expensive to this county. And that's actually why I've been running, to make sure that we have the right leaders in place. I've seen what happens when we don't. I know how expensive it is to our county, to our taxpayers, and we just can't afford it. I mean, it would be wonderful if we could give away free things to everyone, but we simply can't afford it. We had a huge budget deficit last year. It was sobering when I realized what was before me as the chair. And, having to negotiate the budget, make tough choices. And when you're cutting things, you're going to make somebody angry. And so we've had to deal with some very angry people over the past year. But I think that there would have been more angry people if their taxes had gone up or if people had lost their jobs. And it's not something that any of us wants to do. So there's so much balancing that goes on, but putting the wrong person in place as a county exec can be very expensive for our county. And I know that I have shown the leadership that it takes to balance the budget, but still take care of the people who live here. And I want to make sure that that balance is in place. So that's why I'm running. I ran for the at-large seat for the same reason. I knew that otherwise the person who would have won would have shifted the balance of power on our council into one that wanted to spend more than we have. And I just couldn't put up with it.
I need to take a very, very quick break. But on the other side, I want to ask you a plethora of questions. Certainly, one of them is about money, what is happening in Annapolis right now, and any concerns you may have with that, as well as some of the other issues in Prince George's County. So please stay with us. The Daily Drum will continue on Sirius XM, channel 141. And you will be able to see this and every edition of the Daily Drum Inside segment via podcast on WHUR.com. I'm Harold Fisher. We'll continue this conversation in just a few seconds. Welcome back to the Daily Drum on Sirius XM, channel 141. I'm Harold Fisher. We continue our conversation with Prince George's County Council Chair Jolene Ivey about a variety of issues impacting the county. I want to talk about some of the other issues that are looming large in the county and really across the state. You talked about before the break about your candidacy and wanting to be more fiscally responsible and talking about the budget deficits that the county had. As you know, Governor Westmore is trying to um, address a $3 billion deficit. And what impact do you believe that those kinds of cuts or other uh, machinations, for lack of a better term, uh, will impact Prince George's County?
They're going to have a huge impact. It's kind of discouraging. I understand what he's going through. I really do. I served in the House of Delegates before and been through some tough budget times for the state. So I get it. But when you see that we're already struggling and the first version of the budget, because it's not the final version, now it's gone, to the House of Delegates. They'll, work on the budget. They'll send it to the Senate. There'll eventually be agreement. And during that period of time, what I hope happens is some shifting back to the state, because the state is a lot bigger, a lot stronger than the localities are. And so when I look at Prince George's County already struggling with the budget deficit, and then we're told that a greater percentage of teacher pensions is going to be shifted our way, I don't know how that is sustainable. And when I look at what it could mean for DDA, who's dealing with people with developmental disabilities, I understand they have a proposed $200 million cut to their budget. That's massive. And these are people who really, really need our help. And I've always had an affinity for the disabled community, and try in every way that I can to help them and make sure that they feel integrated into our society. And it's a lot harder with that much less money coming to them. So that community on their own is beside themselves. And I do hope those are the kinds of things that change in the budget. I can't tell him every lever to pull. I just know that they have a lot more levers in Annapolis than we have here in Prince George's County.
Mm. One of the things that is also coming out of Annapolis is this, proposal, to, I guess, expand beer and wine sales in grocery stores in the county. Do you support that initiative? Well, I should say the governor supports that initiative.
The governor supports that initiative. I understand it's already been shot down in Annapolis, so it's not something that I think is going to get any air this year. Liquor is controlled by the state, not by the county, and I really prefer to, therefore, keep the attention there in Annapolis on it. It's a complicated issue. There are some really excellent beer and wine liquor stores in our county that are really staunch members of the community. They have all kinds of events at their locations, and they're just really positive for our community. I would not want them hurt by having, less than a mile away, a grocery store being able to sell a lot of the same things, and it's really going to hurt their bottom line. So I think the problem is there are liquor stores that are the, little small ones where they're not well maintained, they're not well run, and you see trash outside and you see people hanging out. And we're not trying to support those. So it's kind of hard to say we only want the good ones, but the bad ones can close. I don't know legislatively how you do that, but I do know that we can hurt some of the good ones if we allow beer and wine to be sold in grocery stores. Now, we need to be making decisions as a community, or really right now as a state, since they're the ones who have to decide what is important. And I'm hoping that they can find a way to spend more time working on this issue. It's one that came up when I was in Annapolis as a delegate. and it's still being batted around. I don't think that they've come up with a good solution yet. So I'm not on board with it at this point. I think that we need to spend more time talking to the good venues to see what these impacts would be to them and how could we support them.
Yeah, because certainly it appears, at least, that proposal would have Maryland, and obviously to a smaller degree Prince George's County, looking like Virginia, Fairfax County, where if you want to go into a Target, if you want to go into some of these larger convenience stores that you've got, and I've been there and I've seen, oh my goodness, there's wine in Target, there's wine in the grocery store, which you don't have in those stores just across the river here in Maryland.
Right. And like I said, it's a complicated issue. I mean, there's a Costco near me that has beer, wine, and liquor, but it's in DC. I just live over the line in Maryland, and it's easy drive for me. And I have honestly gone there and bought beer and wine and liquor there. So I can see the convenience of it. But I just don't want to hurt the existing good facilities that we have, because we really do have some wonderful ones. And I don't want to hurt them.
Speaking of Target, as you know, Target announced this week that it is cutting back its DEI initiative.
And I've cut off my Target spending.
Is that a fact?
See how that works?
Yeah. That. I mean, Target is popular. It is part of what pop culture. No one goes to Target; they go to Target. It's we've been hearing that for a while. But
shout out to Costco. They did not go that route. They said no, DEI is important to us. We embrace diversity, and I embrace Costco. So there you go.
Okay, well then, you said what you said. But I did want to go back to some of the other issues in the county. Rent stabilization for seniors.
Let me talk about that real quick, because
Sure.
I want to make sure that we're clear. We did a bill last summer on rent stabilization. And in that bill, which I was the lead sponsor of, I thought we'd found a balance, and I thought we'd found ways to take care of all our interests, which includes providing more housing. And that means encouraging development, because as more housing is built, prices go down. So that, and at the same time, not allowing unscrupulous landlords to take advantage of people. So those were the main goals. The problem is that we had thought that when we put in the part of the bill that protects seniors, we thought that they would be protected at a greater expansion than they were in the bill. Like, the interpretation turned out that if seniors were living in a senior building and that building had been built before 2000, that they weren't included in the legislation. And we wanted to make sure that they were. So this is a cleanup bill. It isn't really a new thing. So I don't want to, be parading it around as if it's some campaign thing I'm trying to do. And it's not for show. It's really just a corrections bill.
Well, I wanted to speak about the broader issue. Is that Prince George's County, for several administrations, has had difficulty addressing issues regarding high property taxes. I'm talking about seniors who own their property, not necessarily not renters.
Right. Mm-hmm.
What do you say to them? Also, when they want to stay in the county that they love, but as they as money becomes an issue, not just for them personally, but as it relates to the taxes that are coming at them, they may not be able to do that.
And we're very sensitive to that as a council. And we have tried to come up with a way to give them a property tax credit for seniors. We did pass something a couple of years ago. It turned out that it did not do everything that we wanted it to do. So there was a corrections bill that we passed last fall, which also is not entirely what we needed to do. I think that we get into the heat of battle and you so much want to help the seniors, you're not thinking the whole thing through carefully. So we did take a beat, and we have a new bill that is coming out that, we'll work on it. This is the first version of the bill, and I think it will work. But we just need to make sure we do it right, because we definitely are want to protect our seniors. The thing that's different for me, nobody gets everything that they want in a bill. They don't. You have to compromise and work with your colleagues and talk to the community, and you come up with the best option that you can. To me, it is not as effective to use the $500,000 cutoff for the amount that the home can be for the person who gets the tax credit. I think that what is more important is a means test. How much does that senior make? Many seniors, and most that we know, are struggling, and those are the ones we're trying to help. But there are those who are doing quite well. And for those seniors, I'm sorry, I love you deeply, but it's hard to give you a tax credit when we really need the money to help people who have less. So I would rather take away the $500,000 cap on the home, because imagine that you're a senior whose home has increased in value and now it's worth $700,000, but you're making, you're bringing in like $60,000 maybe through your retirement. How are you supposed to pay the increased taxes on a house that's now worth that much? It happens. It definitely happens. So I think that we need to have a better formula for it, but that's just my opinion. I have colleagues. Everybody has opinions. Everybody has what they think is most important. And then, of course, there's a budget. How do we pay for it? Because whenever we're giving a tax credit, it means there's money that's not going into our budget, which is, this is how we're paying for things. We can't pay for all the things that we need if we don't collect taxes. Unfortunately, in Prince George's County, we really rely heavily on property owners, on homeowners, and we need to bring in a greater commercial tax base so that these commercial businesses can take some of the load off of homeowners. So, it's a complicated issue, but it's one that I think that we can take on. I'm not sure how patient we are for it right now. I have a feeling that my means tests and lifting the cap won't go through, but I just want to tell you where my heart is and my thinking when it comes to that issue.
How did the county get caught so flat-footed when it came to snow and ice removal?
I think that there were a number of things that just came together as a perfect storm, where we had relatively new people in leadership who had never dealt with Prince George's County and snow. I mean, we've had kind of up and down snow issues over the years, and we can go a long time, it seems, without getting any. So people weren't getting the experience they needed. And there's one thing that really hit me. So I found out halfway through the storm that the salt that we had for the roads was not the right kind of salt for the kind of cold we were having. The salt we had did work below freezing, but it didn't work below 20 degrees for extended periods of time. And that's what we had. We had extended periods of time with temperatures below 20, very, very cold. And the ground out here we don't have the same heat island effects as you might have in DC. So the ground was so cold, the salt was not appropriate for that cold ice. Well, ice is ice, but for that cold
Mm-hmm.
ground. And they had to go source the correct salt. And this other salt mixture is more expensive and it's more corrosive on the roads. It's harder on the environment. It's not something that you'd want to use regularly. So we don't stockpile it in the same way. I believe that now we are not in the same way, but we are stockpiling some. So we have some to work with if this hits us again. The other thing is, I think we've had a conversation. We had a briefing from the Department of Public Works and Transportation about snow removal. And I also had gone out on a snowplow during the snowstorm to see what was going on because I kept getting complaints and I wanted to see for myself what was going on. So I think that we're going to prioritize hilly areas and make sure that people who live on a hill or at the bottom of a hill get served a lot faster, and to make sure that we can find a way to simultaneously do main roads and residential roads, because the residents can't always listen and stay home.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they're forced out in their car, and they really shouldn't, but while things happen, life happens. And so they go out on the road and they're crunching down snow and they're compacting it and making that into ice that the snowplow now can't remove. Snowplows remove snow. They don't remove ice.
Mm-hmm.
So and then of course, once you've compacted it, now it's ice. And then we didn't have the right kind of salt for that ice. It was a snow show.
Yes, yes.
I think in the future we will do better. I know we will, because we've had, the people involved have had great amount of training and experience through this. And I know everybody's heart was in the right place and people were really working hard. When I went to the command center and I saw everybody there working together, that they've been there for 12 hours. It was 12-hour shifts. Everybody had to work. It was a lot.
Yeah.
And you hate to then turn to those people and just yell at them, because that's demoralizing. We need to thank them for what they were able to do and give them better tools to work with next time.
What do you want to see happen to Northwest Stadium if the Washington Commanders eventually move back to DC? The RFK Stadium situation is almost there. It's still not a done deal. The paperwork is not yet done, but it's closer now than ever before.
Well, Maryland is also going to make an offer. Might be happening as we speak. I don't know, but above my pay grade. But it is happening. So we will see what the final answer is as to where does the stadium go or stay. If it stays with us, we were going to have it moved anyway, closer to the Beltway, and to make it more accessible for both metro stations that are close by. And so either way, it will move some. And I just want it to stay right here in Prince George's County. If it does leave, because things happen, number one, we don't want it to end up like the RFK site, where 30 years later or whatever, it's still there as eyesore. So we do have an agreement for them to, if that should happen, that they will within 3 months of leaving start tearing it down, and trying to get agreements about what kind of development would go there. I have ideas, but I don't have money. So, you know what I mean? We all have ideas, but we'd have to work with work with people who know a lot about development and what would work economically for the area and would really bring a benefit to the residents there. These are people who have lived through this stadium all these years. were promised wonderful development that never came. And, they're disappointed. And I don't think that we should allow that to happen again. We need to deliver on the promise that was given to them all those years ago.
I want to talk about pedestrian safety. Obviously, it's a big issue. What is the council trying to do as it relates to that?
Well, a few things. We had a pedestrian safety work group primarily dealing with schools because we did have several children who were killed trying to walk to school. And that's a tragedy of just unimaginable proportions. And we need to do all we can to make sure that never happens again. So there was a school pedestrian safety work group. It was led by Councilwoman Fisher and Councilman Olson. And they did their presentation the other day in council to talk about some of the things that can make, streets and roads safer for the kids. And one thing that they came up with that I really like is to work with the municipal governments. They have police as well. Why aren't we tapping into them to help with crossing guard duties? That would, we have 27 municipalities. If you are able to use some of the municipalities to help, and they're already there, they're already in the community. I think one problem we've had with crossing guards is that they get assigned all over the county, and you might choose to, go be a crossing guard at your kid's school or whatever's close by, but you don't want to be sent half an hour away.
Mm-hmm.
And so you choose not to take that job. So, I know there's unions involved. We can't just, throw out all contracts, but we do need to find a way to have more crossing guards and helping these kids get to school safely. Another thing that we're doing to help everyone is these stop sign cameras. So the Maryland General Assembly last year, our delegation sent back a law that we're taking advantage of that allows municipalities to apply for stop sign cameras that are needed in their communities. And we're starting to roll that out now. We authorized the first group in December, and we will be authorizing, maybe it was November, but anyway, we'll be authorizing more, over time. And I think when people realize that you get a ticket if you don't actually stop at the stop sign, it's going to help as well. Because, too many people are not even rolling to a stop. They're just not stopping. They're just going. And it's dangerous. I don't know what happened during COVID, but it seems to me people just got a little crazy and they just forgot how to drive and how to be considerate of others. So,
Yeah, indeed, it may be, no pun intended, a sign of the times as it relates to driving and the like. I did want to ask you one final question. I have about 5 minutes left, but where do you come down on this Hospital Hill battle between Bladensburg and Cheverly? We know.
I am very happy to report that the battle has ended.
Okay. Can you hear me? So what happened? Yeah,
the battle for Hospital Hill has come to an end. I'm very happy to report. I did not think it was useful for our community to have that fight, but Bladensburg has withdrawn their annexation application, and everyone's dropping their lawsuits, and we're all going to move on with our lives and with the construction of this wonderful project. And I know it's going to end up being a benefit to Bladensburg. It just won't be in Bladensburg. It will ultimately be in Cheverly.
when did this happen?
yesterday.
Did they say
Yeah.
why they uh, dropped their objection to Chevrolet?
Well, I believe that, in my opinion, the mayor of Cheverly was very strong on this issue, and she worked really hard. She had the town file suit. The county filed suit also against Bladensburg, and there was a bill coming through in Annapolis that was definitely going to pass that would have just set up a framework that would have made it impossible for them to annex it, but it would have had an impact on every municipality in the state. And I think every municipality in the state was not happy with Bladensburg. So in the end, I'm very glad that an agreement was made to kind of drop swords, and the mayor of Bladensburg decided that it would be best to not go forward with it. But ultimately, they're going to benefit from this development, and we want the whole region to benefit from it. And great development will naturally come to Bladensburg.
Interesting. Final thoughts about where we are right now. A new day in Washington, which could very well mean a new day for Prince George's County and the state.
You're not talking about the Orange Menace again, are you, Harold?
You would never hear me refer to the president as that, but I am.
You just heard me do it.
Yes, but I am referring to the current political climate as it relates to this new administration.
I'm grateful that we have reasonable, rational, smart, hardworking people representing Maryland on Capitol Hill. Of course, number one would be my husband, Glenn Ivey.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Steny Hoyer is amazing. He's been fighting for our county and for our state for years. And now we have our brand new Senator Angela Alsobrooks, also from Prince George's County. So we have a great team. We have Kwesi Mfume has been there before and again. And they're all just doing such a great job. So I believe with them, we have April Delaney James is there, so Sarah Elfreth. So we have some new people and we have some people with experience. And I think they're going to make a great team for our state.
Jolene Ivey, Chair of the Prince George's County Council, thank you so much for your time. Good luck to you, and we will certainly be in touch.
Thank you, Harold. You have a great evening.
You too. That is the Daily Drum for this Thursday, January 30th, 2025. I'm Harold Fisher. Good night.